hit
exotic new life forms.
graphics cards. Actually, the top part of it is a incremental improvement where they, in this case, they're going to
galaxy.
VRAM allocations, they adjust
Become
pricing
a
necessary,
hero.
and they adjust performance to compete with
Become
AMD
a
GPUs like the
legend.
9070 versus the 5070.
Become
That's why we're seeing
a Helldiver.
it's 4, maybe 5% core count increase as I look at the numbers again, and a little bit higher TDP out there. So overall, I think that if you are considering buying a GPU right now, I would buy it now. I don't think waiting for a mythical super series is necessarily going to help you. Look at all the poor folks out there who thought, oh no, why should I buy a discounted 4070 Ti Super with a game
Also,
in the fall 2024? I'm going to wait for this amazing 50s, and then they had to wait this long for MSRP. The performance isn't that much better. So you had to wait almost a year for it to get to this point. So again, I just think waiting is often a fool's errand, and I think you can get a much better deal right now, except one category of gamer, or really two categories of gamer. If you're considering either a 5070 or a 5060, you might want to wait. A 5070 Super with 18 gigs of VRAM is a significantly better product than the 5070 with 12 gigabytes of VRAM. But honestly, if that's where you're at, I would probably buy the 9070 anyway, because it's got 16 gigs of VRAM. You can get it now, and it's slightly faster, and it's pretty good at ray tracing, by the way. And anything except heavy path tracing, AMD's really caught up to NVIDIA in many of the ray tracing workloads out there, and I'm not sure that ray tracing is quite the future that we once thought it was, now that game developers are like, But the other one is the 5060, more in the budget segment. I do think eventually NVIDIA will give that 12 gigs of VRAM because it's just going to make sense. Now, will they keep the $299 MSRP, or will that become like a $340 card to try and compete against the 9060 XT 16 gigabyte? I think that would be a mistake because the 9060 XT will mop the floor with the 5060. So I could see them probably coming back at $299 with that. So maybe those are the two segments I'd consider waiting. But especially if you want to get NVIDIA GPU, that Borderlands 4 game, if you want to get a 5070 Ti or now MSRP 5080, I would pull the trigger on it. Let's talk about more new graphics cards that could be launching very, very soon. And we will get to that RX 9080 XT at some point. But let's first talk about what OG Vibes has, which is what are my thoughts on the presumably upcoming ARC B770 GPU. Luke wants to know what's the current state of Intel GPUs and a vision for the future. The reason I want to talk about this right now is because Intel just announced a partnership with EA around Battlefield 6. Not only can you get a Blue Bundle if it's August 25th until September 7th by any their 13th or 14th gen CPUs or Ultra CPUs, but also with the Intel Arc GPUs, and extended XeSS is going to basically debut in Battlefield 6 or make a big splash, and that they have been optimizing that game for their graphics cards and for their upscaler as well. I think this does portend the launch of the B770 because we've been hearing that that card is supposed to launch in the fourth quarter of this year. Again, rumors, but we're almost to the fourth quarter this year, and I expect that we're going to see it launch just until Battlefield officially comes out. I believe it launches October 10th. That would be the beginning of the fourth quarter if they launched it around October 1st. They announced it in September, and they launched in October. And that's typically when Intel does with the product. They used to have Intel Innovation Day events in September. They announced the product, and then they'd be available on shelf in October. So I do think we're going to get an RX 770, and I think the interesting thing about it is can it be an RX 9060 XT 16 gigabyte competitor and also compete with the 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte? Because that's the next class of GPUs that Intel could reasonably clock to. And if it can, and if it can also address, I do expect we'll hear something about this if this GPU does get announced, and I expect it's coming because XeSS 2, why would they even be working on this? Why would they spend the money with the partnership with EA if we weren't getting all this? So this is the direction of the GPUs for Intel, I think, at least. I do expect to hear something about the CPU overhead issue in Intel Arc GPUs. Hopefully they have learned how to fix it, and they are going to start rolling out those fixes relatively soon. So fingers crossed on all fronts here, because we do really need a real competitor. And this is the direction I said Intel needed to take from the very beginning. Don't try and launch 27 different GPUs at every different bracket. Don't worry about all the ray tracing and fancy bells and whistles. Start at the budget and work your way up. Because right now Intel is super hurting. They're in dire straits. It has nothing to do with their GPU division. It has to do with the terrible bets they made on their foundries over time and how much that's held back CPU innovation, basically, maybe even GPU innovation as well. I think in terms of GPUs, my fingers are crossed we're going to get a really good kind of mid-range or mainstream 1440p GPU. Okay, so let's talk about the RX 9080 XT. Is that actually going to launch in the fall as so many reported earlier? That's what Loons wants to know. We've just got a lot of GPUs on the NVIDIA side. Is there any chance of AMD releasing a more than 16 gigabyte GPU? Or maybe even quarter one or quarter two in 2026? Joel basically asked the same thing. Wait, is 9080 XT, is that a confirmed thing? Or is it still just a far-fetched rumor? Now, we got a lot of rumors about 2 months ago around a 9080 XT, and I don't doubt AMD was certainly in a lab or with maybe some board partners playing around with the idea of something that pushed far enough to compete, maybe even beat the RTX 5080. But the fact that the rumors have dried up all of a sudden, does that mean anything? It's possible that they're just waiting and that we'll hear more at the middle of August. Products in August, so maybe they're just waiting until September after Labor Day to kind of start the rumor mill up again. I don't think the 9080 XT is a great product for them. They can't even get the 9070 XT to MSRP. Can't get the 9070 to MSRP, and NVIDIA is now hitting MSRP on everything, so their cards look a lot less competitive. Not only that, but now they have a game bundle with Borderlands 4. The 5070 Ti, if you take into account the game bundle, it's actually cheaper than 9070 XT. Why would you buy the 9070 XT? The whole premise that the 9070 XT is an amazing graphics card is based on the fact that they've closed the feature set with NVIDIA, and in areas where NVIDIA is slightly better, like wider game support for DLSS 4, while AMD catches up, if there's a $150 price difference between MSRPs, well, that only works if there's an actual $150 price difference. Now NVIDIA is throwing games on top of the actual MSRP cards, and AMD sitting $100 over MSRP. It just doesn't look like that great a deal right now, and I would probably tell someone, get the 5070 Ti. If you take the game bundle into account, it's actually a cheaper GPU. To me, that's what AMD needs to do. Now, what are they actually going to do? It's hard to say. I find it suspicious that the rumors suddenly dried up. That doesn't mean that it's not going to come in quarter one of next year. But also, we have RDNA 5, and we did just get a whole lot of RDNA 5 rumors come out, and that looks pretty impressive out there. So I think that, yeah, this whole idea of a cleaner card that we're going to get kind of mid-generation, I don't know. I haven't done it. Here's a topic that I've been thinking about for a little while, is like, is 4K gaming now dumb in 2025? It just makes no sense. And let me share with you how John Locke, using an IPS LCD monitor, they're considering saving money to buy an OLED for gaming, saving not ready to buy an OLED. The main concern, they're concerned about storage. Should they buy one? And then Bell Dario asks, would you get money for a 4K monitor and less performance but better visual quality with a 5070 Ti? Or should they stay at 1440p with the same graphics card? I have begun to decide as I look at this that 4K gaming may not make as much sense as it did 2 years ago. And you're like, what? How does that make sense? The graphics cards are at least modestly gotten faster. There's some more game optimizations and everything. Why was 4K gaming okay? No, it's not. It all has to do with OLED gaming monitors and HDR. The HDR gaming experience is so transformative. People talk endlessly about ray tracing. You get ray tracing and all that nonsense. Go out and get a good HDR gaming monitor that's OLED. Play that and just turn on HDR. That's it. No performance hit on your GPU. It looks incredible. And it is a transformative gaming experience. You don't need ray tracing, you don't need path tracing, you don't need to basically crush your GPU and your FPS down to console-like performance for it. You get the same performance. It's absolutely incredible, and to the point where 1440p OLED gaming monitors have massively come down in price. They were $1,000 when they first launched, or actually more than that really, but the current 27-inch variants of them were about $1,000 when they first launched. You can pick one up for $450. $450. That is the price you used to pay for high-quality 1440p LCD panels. You start to ask yourself, well, then where does 4K LCD even fit in? 4K gaming monitors OLED still sit around $800 to $1,000, so they still sit double the price. And that just led me to believe, like, if I'm buying a 5070 Ti, like, rather than get a 5080 GPU, which is only like $1,400, why not get a 5070 Ti and then use the rest of that money, because the price difference was like $400 or $500 at the time, and get an OLED gaming monitor? That would give you so much of a better gaming experience than going to 4K LCD. It just would with a 5080. right? And I still kind of feel like that. And so I'm really beginning to question 4K gaming right now. I think it's too expensive. I think 1440p HDR gaming with an OLED gaming mark has come down to such a price point that it is the mainstream kind of thing. So I'm just coming around to the point that like 4K gaming is kind of dumb. And I game at 4K. I game at 4K. We have two M28U monitors, one in here and one out where the video editing PC is, and one has a 4090, and this PC I game on has a 7900 XT, and I get good frame rates at 4K, and it looks great. It's a higher pixel density basically.
You will never destroy our way of life.
Then I sit down and I turn on my HDR on something on an OLED game monitor. I'm like, what am I really doing at 4K? I should be at 1440p, and I should be using an OLED with HDR. So these have been big thoughts in our Boost My Build series recently, where someone wanted a 4K. So I just wanted to share all that with you because I thought these were really good questions. Warren Jude asked me, how long is 16 gigabytes of DRAM going to be viable at 1440p? 25 RX 7800 XT from last generation. How long is it going to be reasonable to keep the card? They were hoping to get 5 years out of it. I think 16 gigs is absolutely fine, but I think 12 gigabytes is the big question, right? That's the RTX 4070, 4070 Super, the 5070, and hopefully the 5070 Super is going to solve that equation, and everything else has 16 gigs around it, right? So that's the real question. Why did 8 gigabytes kind of go the way of the dinosaur? How many people bought an RTX 3070 8 gigabyte thinking, this card's so fast, so amazing, awesome, I don't need that RX 6800 16 gigabyte card for about the same price and slightly faster, the 16 gigs of DRAM. I've got amazing ray tracing on the 3070 8 gigabyte, like no one's ray tracing on the 3070 8 gigabyte. You just got the ray tracing on it. So this is why I really hesitate to buy into features like that. I think VRAM is important, and I think the next breakpoint for VRAM, just like we saw in 2020 with the release of the new consoles, will be the next generation of consoles, because the current generation of consoles,
This is Pelican 1, preparing for touchdown.
They have unified system memory, and they came out in 2020, and they could use more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM. In fact, they could use 12.5 and 13.5 is the limit on one of them, 12 and 16 altogether. And so what we saw is we saw games come out eventually console, because console is a big section of the market. They're also releasing PC, but they only have to do one optimization for console, right? Whereas PC parts are like a billion CPUs, billion GPUs, and it's a combination of them. So they started off to run on that kind of hardware, and so they left a lot of PC hardware.
Another victory for the right side of history.
Right? It took a couple of years for new games to come out that were going to take advantage of that. The next breakpoint really for the consoles, I think 2027 or 2028 is when we expect to get them. And then really the next breakpoint I think will probably be maybe a year or so afterwards, as we get games designed for that new level of hardware, and however much VRAM they have, I think that'll be the new standard. So until then, I think we're good. You bought this GPU probably a year or so ago, so I think you have at least 4 years. 16 gigs, absolutely great. 12 gigs is just the big question mark. If you got value out of this video, please give it a like. It makes a huge difference to the channel. Of course, subscribe for more cool PC content. Like, did you check out? We just released for the fall 2025 the best CPU and GPU combos. CPU and GPU combos, all 2025. We've got all the latest graphics cards in there. What should you be buying if you're building right now? Because I think it's a great time to build right now. Check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Well, the U.S. is deploying destroyers and thousands of Marines towards Venezuela as President Trump looks to crack down on cartels and the Maduro regime. They could reportedly reach the country's coast as soon as tomorrow. Here to discuss is Dissident Project speaker and an immigrant from Venezuela, Jorge Galicia, along with PragerU political commentator and Venezuelan political refugee, Franklin Camargo. So great to have you both on. I'm going to start with you, Jorge. What is the reaction of Venezuelans? I know you guys are in close contact with people who are living there right now. Over 70–80% of the country voted for the opposition party against Maduro. How are they feeling?
Then how did he get elected? If 70–80% of people voted against him?
Hellpods primed.
by force. Oh. That's crazy. He has all the guns. That'll do it, won't it? Yep, that'll do it.
Feeling in this moment, knowing that these destroyers are coming so close to the Venezuelan
He's got the cards.
Well, first of all, Rachel, thank you for having me again. I think how many people in Venezuela are extremely optimistic. They cannot really be loud about it because they're facing
here's the thing is that, like, I don't know how many Americans I speak for, but I think that there's a lot of people that feel the way that I do, which is we don't have any ill will, animosity, and in fact, I would like to visit South America to see the Aztec temples and the Mayan temples and all that stuff, right? I'd love to do that. We see a country like El Salvador, and we say, wow, that's amazing, we love this. You guys should do that everywhere. There's no ill will or negative sentiment that Americans have towards South America on a fundamental level. And I think that the amount of positivity towards El Salvador proves that. Like, I don't feel any ill will towards, like, a Venezuelan or a Brazilian or anything like that, right? At all. Like, how many of you guys feel that same way? Is this a joke? No, I'm being honest. Like, how many of y'all feel the exact same way? Because they're part of America. At the end of the day, like, they're South America, but they're still America, right? I mean, like, what the fuck? Yeah, like, it's the problem that you, and like, again, it's the problem you got people like that are in charge that are problematic. That's it. Same, yeah, exactly. Like, there's something. And so there's an idea that Americans are, like, you know, xenophobic or negative or racist against South America. El Salvador just immediately deletes that argument. It evaporates that argument. It's not real. Thanks, I'm from Brazil. Yeah, no, we get it. Like, we totally understand. Like, yeah, absolutely. Chileans, yeah, sure.
that terrible criminal regime, if they express their gratitude towards the United States government and towards President Trump for the pressure he's having against Maduro, they're going to face horrible consequences. That's why you don't really see a lot of...
Why is it that every single, like, isn't it crazy that, like, Stalin, Saddam, and now Maduro, every single one of them is the same general type of guy with really good hair and a really good mustache? How does it happen 3 times in a row, man? Like, really, like, is it the same guy? Are they like cloning him in like Antarctica and like sending him out to do this? Yeah. What the fuck?
Expressions coming out of Venezuela, but you know, I have people there. I talk to them.
Look at that hairline.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the opposition activists who was holed up in that embassy for over a year before she was rescued. And I asked her, and she said it's a silent euphoria. And so while they're quietly celebrating what President Trump is doing right now in Venezuela, and frankly for the whole Western Hemisphere, Franklin, meanwhile Venezuelans who are living abroad are putting out the most remarkable TikTok, Instagram videos I've ever seen. You're seeing the destroyers coming into the ocean and the planes coming overhead, and they're and YMCA playing, and just the euphoria from the dissident community who's abroad is so palpable.
I feel bad for them. I'm worried about them, man. Like, if that's a dictatorship, like, I'd be afraid for their safety, for real.
And thankful to the administration. Give us more context to that.
Is that Shroud?
The Venezuelan people recognizes that the Trump administration is probably one of the biggest allies that freedom fighters, Venezuelan freedom fighters, have had over the last 25 years. Is someone who has recognized that Maduro is not just a threat to South America, it's not just a threat to Venezuelans, but it's also a threat to the American people. And I think this is the most important thing to mention right now. When we talk about Nicolas Maduro, when we talk about the Venezuelan regime, we're not just talking about a government that we dislike. or a dictatorship, a soft dictatorship. We're talking about a narco state, a government that produced over 25% of the entire cocaine that is produced in the entire world. It's
Damn. That's wild. Holy shit.
They're also a regime that sent Tren Garawa, the same criminal organization that killed, for example, Lakin Riley, or that killed Jocelyn Lungaray. So there is a
Not enough for 100.
need for the American people, for the well-being of the American people in the Western Hemisphere.
Maybe we should, that's what we do. We get rid of Maduro and we replace him. The new president of Venezuela can be Hunter Biden. And he'll get rid of all the cocaine by just fucking using it all.
Orbital incoming.
Like a black hole. Totally get rid of the cocaine problem.
To have a regime change
Absorb it all,
to stop these cartels.
Yeah.
But Venezuelans recognize that Trump is an ally, that the U.S. government is probably the biggest hope that we currently have.
Okay, let's talk
I
a little
bet.
bit about who else is involved with Nicolás Maduro. It's not just the drug cartels, which is serious, and I appreciate Franklin laying that part out, but it's the Chinese, it's the Iranians. Let's talk about the Chinese because they
There's always why is it that always this Iranian government is always on the side of the person that's crazy? Isn't that nuts? The narrative is screwed though. They're not affecting America. We've stomped them in any conflict. This is not America first at all. I think that realistically, Venezuela's economy, if what they're saying is true, is at least contingent partially on drug distribution in the United States. Do you really think that Venezuela also, like, if they make 25% of the world's cocaine, do you think that they use 25% of the world's cocaine? Of course not. So just apply a little bit of common sense and logical thinking to this, and you'd realize that it's very obvious that their business model and their economy, and also this guy, by the way, is a fucking dictator. People don't like him either. He's destabilizing the country, which is causing a bunch of people to come over here. Sometimes doing things that are America first doesn't always mean that you only deal with America first is not isolationism. Sometimes America first is being proactive so you don't have to be isolationist. That's my opinion. Like a good example of this is the bombing of the Iranian nuclear facilities. This is an America first action because it threatens a long-term stability in an area. Like, you have to be able to think more than one step in front of you. I understand your point of view, and I think that it's fair for you to criticize and be concerned, especially after 20 years replacing the Taliban with the Taliban. I get it. I think that's a good point of view, but that doesn't mean that it's always accurate.
made a huge play and got away with a lot of stuff while America was looking in.
Good guys don't have people that have to leave their country because of political persecution.
Orbital incoming.
That's not what good guys have.
Firing orbital barrage. Clear the area.
The other direction, towards the Middle East, towards Ukraine, and the Chinese were making a move in our hemisphere, in our backyard. Explain.
Yeah, definitely China is all involved in Venezuela. I remember when I was there, I once went to a military outpost and I was embarrassed because I saw the Chinese flag waving in this military place where, you know, in a military place in Venezuela, you should only see Venezuelan flags and that's about it. I saw Chinese...
Yeah, it's insane, man. Yeah, like, exactly, bro. See, imagine how we feel watching an American leftist protest. Where's every flag except for the American flag? Well, there is the American flag. It's upside down. So, yeah, and he's a complete idiot. I'm in South America. He just changed Christmas to July. There's no way he changed Christmas to July. Like, I partially believe that, but, like, I don't entirely. But, yeah, I don't think so. We're on fire? Maybe.
Flag. I saw a Cuban flag, an Iranian flag.
He did change it? No.
Calling down supplies.
The Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, announced a change to the date of Christmas. It's going to be moved from December 4th to December 1st to bring forward the Christmas. It was a one-time adjustment. This guy's a fucking retard. What the fuck? What is this? Wait, Liberty! I don't even know what to say.
T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds.
That's because he was born in November and he wanted his birthday to be farther away from Christmas because his mom doesn't give him presents on both days because they are too close to each other. At this point, I'm 95% sure you're lying. But I'm only 95% sure that you're lying.
That doesn't really make sense. So all of these countries are openly operating in Venezuela to harm American interests in the region. And it's such good news that President Trump is finally taking notice and acting accordingly to stop this.
Well, we're looking at something very historic about to happen. All eyes on Latin America if Donald Trump succeeds in presidential.
Battleships to Venezuela. Oh my God.
Succeeds in cleaning up the Western Hemisphere from Maduro and his very nefarious influences with cartels, the Chinese and the Iranians. I think it may be his greatest foreign policy success, really ever. It really impacts us. It's our backyard. So, Franklin.
Yeah, somebody's bringing up in chat that El Salvador new measures in schools to wear men to wear military cuts. He outlawed the Edgar haircuts.
ETA T-minus 10 seconds. Clear landing zone.
I already thought he was great. Okay, you didn't need to convince me. Yeah, I was already on his side. I don't get it. Yeah, why'd you even say that?
Jorge, thanks for joining us, and we'll be checking back with you as this entire story is just beginning. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, your coat was retarded. Yeah, it was.
I'm Steve Ducey.
No,
I'm Brett.
So Trump is sending what the fuck, bro? Like, oh my God. Like, I didn't even know this was happening.
Stand by for takeoff.
I guess it's literally just like, let me see how I find it.
Pelican 1 beginning ascent.
Let me see how I find there's any information about this too. If Trump dares to touch Maduro, rest assured that all Latin America will rise up and take to the streets celebrating for an entire week. You got me in the first half. If Donald Trump dares to touch Maduro, rest assured that all of Latin America will raise up and take to the streets to celebrate for an entire week. Oh, man. Yeah, people are tired of this fucking asshole. That's great, man. Wow. And this is... Oh, shit. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, there we go, guys. Wow. We will, guys. Come on. I mean, again, like, you know, as an American, I mean, we, you know, like, I think South America is great. I think that, yeah, I don't have anything negative to say about it. It's just, there's just, you know, there's like some government problems you guys have there, but I mean, like, what the fuck? Like, that's, I mean, we have government problems even, right? I mean, so, like, I understand it. I get it. Yeah, and there's, if you're also America first, have you ever thought to yourself, maybe it's a good idea to get rid of the person who's destabilizing a country, making people have to leave that country in the thousands, the tens of thousands, because of political persecution or other forms of oppressive leadership?
Welcome back.
So, like, again, like, you have to think a little bit outside of that frame of reference. Like, I get where you're coming from with that person saying that root cause. Yeah. Well, it's just oil. Why can't it be both?
Mission coordinates locked. 4,000 Marines are heading in the direction of Venezuela.
Engaging orbital thrusters.
According to the White House, the mission is to target drug cartels and traffic narcotics to the United States.
That's placed a $50 million bounty on the head of Venezuela's seventh president, Nicolas Maduro, allegedly for involvement in trafficking narcotics into the United States. As you also just saw, the situation is escalating into a potential war scenario. With you.
Yep, very smart to tell them beforehand. I mean, they're going to figure it out instantly, right? I mean, it's not really that big of a secret. Yeah, I mean, like, that's it. The Beijing will provide support. Shut the fuck up. Get the hell up. Is this it? Oh, damn. Latinx community sent us any more images of this. I don't know if there is or not. There's Alex Jones even talk about this shit. What do you think?
Now, I don't like any of these wars. Not Gulf War, not Gulf II, not Afghanistan, all of it. I've been against all these wars, Ukraine war, all of it.
Yeah.
But if you look at U.S. doctrine and wars that we fought before that were right,
he is bald.
It's in Latin America. This is our sandbox. And Venezuela is a communist dictatorship with the biggest oil reserves per square foot in the world. Their people are absolute slaves.
Man.
And I don't like regime change. But they are manipulating our elections. They are flooding us with fentanyl. And if there were surgical strikes...
Well, they don't like regime change either. And that's why they apparently were ignoring elections. Yeah.
To take out the communists, there'd be an uprising, and they could have elections, and it would be a good thing.
You convince us that oil?
So,
yeah.
I'm not one to ever push offensive stuff, but they started it, so it's really defense. So I'll say it.
Say it.
I am for removing the Venezuelan
I was going to say
dictatorship.
the N-word. Never mind. Okay.
And
yeah,
but
true.
by the extension, the cartels back down and have basically slashed fentanyl production 90+%. I mean, they're killing their own people that do it. That's well known. And even in the mainstream news. So it's kind of like Trump. I'm going to come get you Mexico now because of what you did before. And the CIA was basically allowing
this shit never works, bro. It's not working what they have over there right now. It's not working.
We've got equipment.
It's clearly not working.
Well, that's running a lot of it. Under Obama, and then under Trump's nose, and then with Biden it got worse. So by that extension, I mean, for those that don't know, Trudeau allows the use of it. It's decriminalized, and they turn a blind eye to its production. Most of it comes out of Canada now. That's on record. So I just...
That's a lot.
Yeah, do we have a right to go blow up the cartels? Yeah.
Found something. Bug outpost spotted. Prepare to exterminate.
He was building up to that. He building up to it.
But they rolled over, basically. Venezuela is...
No, they don't want to deal with it because, like, the thing is, the cartels, like, if I was the cartel leaders, right, what would I do? I would say, fuck, you win. You win. You win. That's fine. It's fine. Not going to deal with this shit at all. Like, do you think they really want to deal with the U.S. military? Fuck no. Like, they don't even want to kill U.S. citizens. Like, they want to make their money and have their power in peace and do their own thing. Like, because also they can just bet on maybe 3 years they could have some new president, and then they can just get right back to doing what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? Just wait 3 years. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, because the guys that run the cartels, they're smart guys. They are. They're smart guys.
The 800-pound gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whether you're for it or not, it's about to happen, in my view.
Yep.
And that's why you see Maduro trying to kiss ass. And, oh, Trump, you're good. Hey, Biden told me to ship all the criminals up there. I got the documents. You got them too. Yeah, we know that.
He trying to roach out? I can see that. For sure, absolutely. Who's ran to Vancouver, take out the Mexican cartels and Chinese triads? I don't know what's going on in Vancouver, man. Like, that's it. I got no idea. You can't trust anyone there, though. You need to rule with Pierre's iron fist. I don't know about that. Yeah, live stream's just gonna be epic. Yeah. And no, I'm glad that they're trying to do something about it. I mean, hopefully, like, I mean, I think with anything like this, I think that the main thing that America should try to do is to empower the people that are in that country to take back control of the country. I think that any regime change that is too foreign will end up having a negative second-order effect, like maybe 15 years, 10 years down the line. Like, at the end of the day, like, it should not be us installing somebody from Venezuela to run the country. country. It should be us, you know, like, what do you call it? Empowering Venezuelans to be able to dictate their own future. 70% hate them? Yeah, I know. No, it's to start a civil war? Well, I mean, they are, so the thing is that there would be a civil war, but there can't be a civil war because these people are losing. They're losing. They already lost. Like, the only reason there's not a civil war right now is because they're just totally, they're totally oppressed. And also, like, again, think about this. By the way, I have no problem. Like, absolutely. Like, you got people causing problems up here at us. Of course you're going to do something to them. Absolutely. It's common sense. They're starving. Yeah, same as Iran. Yeah, it's same as Iran. I have the same outlook as Iran. Yeah, 100%. Look.
Donald Trump brokered peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. That brought the U.S. influence in the Caucasus right in the middle of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chow. Real quick, I've warned you that YouTube is secretly unsubscribing people. I know that sounds unbelievable, but check out these comments. Clipsboard says, I check every time you say something around the subscription. Yesterday was the 3rd time I've resubscribed. And even if you are subscribed, YouTube won't notify you of new episodes. Nick Rogers says, I've been subscribed for years and always got to search you to get videos. I even click the notification button. So double check that you're subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, now's the time. And if you want to make sure you get notified of new episodes, subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. The link is below. Now, on to the story. For years, the Chinese Communist Party has been hard at work setting up a new and improved, quote-unquote, Silk Road economic corridor around the globe. It's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. As a refresher, the BRI is a $1 trillion series of Chinese-run ports, railroads, roads, and multi-use infrastructure projects in countries around the world, making China the center of a new world order, and ultimately ensnaring these countries to Chinese interest. And Trump has just put a pretty big thorn in this plan. It comes in the form of peace, specifically peace between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The two countries have been at odds for decades over Nagorno-Karabakh, an area currently inside Azerbaijan that historically was majority Armenian, and even had its own ethnically Armenian republic between 1994 and 2023. You can probably tell where I'm going with this since I'm referring to it all in the past tense. In the wake of the Soviet Union's collapse, Armenia and Azerbaijan, both former Soviet territories, tussled over the area, until Armenia finally captured the region. But in 2020, Azerbaijan defeated Armenia and regained the area, with most of its Armenian population fleeing. And the two countries have been fighting over the area ever since. So this new peace deal is actually a pretty big deal. But the White House didn't just broker it for good press. Trump came away with a pretty nice bag of goodies for the U.S. And the crown jewel of this bag of goodies is, kid you not, the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, or TRIP for short. This 20-mile transit corridor links Azerbaijan to its exclave, Nakhchivan, and allows for both Armenia and Azerbaijan to open new trade routes much more easily. It's also smack dab in the middle of the Caucasus region, at the crossroads between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, which is a plus, especially since Armenia has a plan called the Crossroads of Peace, to reopen Soviet-era transport links and turn the country into a transit hub between the Black Sea, Mediterranean, Caspian, and Persian Gulf. With TRIP, the U.S. is now a part of that. A U.S.-led consortium will develop and operate TRIP, and both countries will be able to use the route for trade and maintain peace, which is basically a win-win for everyone except China, as well as its no-limits partner Russia and its little friend Iran. The fact that peace hurts them proves how cartoonishly evil they are. They were literally beaten by the power of friendship. According to the diplomat with this new peace, the United States has signaled support for infrastructure free from Russian or Chinese influences, and for a regional order in which Western commercial and political standards prevail. In short, Trump just landed a U.S.-run economic corridor right in the middle of China's BRI. Take that, CCP. But how does this really impact China? What I'm about to show you will blow your mind. But first, if you like this kind of deep dive into what's really going on in China, you've got to subscribe to my premium website, ChinaUncensored.tv. That's where you'll see episodes and live streams we can't put on YouTube. And if you want to support China Uncensored, buying a membership is the best way you can. It's just the price of a bag of coffee. Once again, that's ChinaUncensored.tv. So, why does the Trump route for international peace and prosperity really bother China? Well, China's BRI goes through Central Asia. It has to in order to get to Europe. And since one of the many perks of the BRI is undermining Western cohesion in Europe, this area is a pretty important link in the chain. There's also Central Asia's strategic location at the crossroads of three major geographic and trade routes. For those reasons, China has been deepening ties with Central Asian countries. For example, in September of last year, the acting governor of Georgia's National Bank met with the CCP's ambassador to the country to discuss China's state-owned banks potentially entering the country's market. China and Azerbaijan also have been tightening relations. Azerbaijan's president made a visit to Beijing in April, where he and Xi signed a so-called joint declaration on the establishment of a comprehensive strategic partnership, or...
This is Pelican 1. I have visual on the extraction zone.
The US is way better at acronyms. This new agreement could be a serious threat to that, and a big security risk for China. After all, in a time of war or other crisis, the trip could serve as a choke point on the middle corridor of the BRI that passes through Central Asia. This is the biggest story involving belts and something choking the state of parity. That could seriously hamper the CCP's already faltering economy. Even the state-affiliated South China Morning Post suggests that this revived Silk Route allows the U.S. to steam ahead of China and Russia in the South Caucasus. Meanwhile, Washington's NATO ally Turkey also sees this corridor as a way of expanding its influence in the Turkic countries of Central Asia, which neighbor the Turkic Uyghurs in Xinjiang, who are doing just fine. Why do you ask? This Turkic belt, along with the Organization of Turkic States, or OTS, could be used to cause problems for the CCP in Xinjiang, elsewhere on its borders, or with BRI projects in the region should war break out. Of course, none of this is necessarily a given. For one thing, when it comes to trade networks, China has a head start, and it'll take the U.S. a long time to catch up. And that's assuming it even succeeds, since this isn't one of the world's most stable areas. It's also hard to predict if or when or where any such war would erupt, or if any of these countries would help the U.S. at all, since a lot of them are cozy with the CCP, even Turkey. The important thing is the U.S. has now put China on notice that it isn't ignoring this region any longer. The CCP hates that I make these episodes, but I can only keep the show going with your help. Click on this button to go to my exclusive website, ChinaUncensored.tv. For just the price of a bag of coffee, you can help me stick it to the CCP. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.
We did several missions together, and we actually stayed together as a team.
Best memory of Sean Locke?
I like the bit where he was alive. First time I ever met Sean was at the Kilkenny Cats Laugh Festival, and I knew him by reputation, but we'd never actually gigged together. And I came into the back of the room, and he was on stage, and